Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Matthew with another episode of the My Favorite LJN tournament. Today we do have 8 matchups. If we do have enough time, I am going to try and stretch it out to a 9th matchup based on a particular character I want to include in this video. So I just realized I had duplicates of Haku, so some of the tag teams are going to be jumbled up. So you're not going to have the same tag teams squaring off against each other. So that's why I want to get the very last matchup as part of this video. That way I can include both tag team members. So, as I mentioned a lot of times before, when I make these videos, I pretty much wing it. You know, there's no script. I really don't know what I'm going to say in that video until I actually sit down behind the computer and actually make the video. But there are times like today where we are doing, so we're finishing off the rest of Series 6, and then we're diving into the Random Treasure figures. Now, Random Treasure has actually been really eager to make this type of video. There's a lot of things I have to say. Problem is, when you're thinking about it, and you're thinking about the video, and you're thinking about the things that you want to bring up in the video, it just sounds so good in your head when you're thinking about it. But when you actually come down here and make the video, you can never say the same thing that you want to say, and it becomes, again, it's unrealistic when you're just basically trying to memorize the script, so to speak. But it doesn't look like the specific type of figures I want to talk about is going to be in this particular video. Today I am going to be making at least 3 videos. So today it is Tuesday, September 27th, and again, this is going to be episode number 8, and I'm going to make 9 and 10 tonight as well. So we're going to kick right into the first set of matchups. First one we're looking at is going to feature the Ultimate Warrior. Absolutely love this figure. You know, it was on my list of top 10 favorites. So I mentioned before, certain figures, like the Hercules figure we discussed, like the Ultimate Warrior, these figures that have the same character but feature different body poses, I'm going to consider that to be a completely different figure. So like the Random Treasures exclusive Ultimate Warrior will not be part of this particular matchup. That Warrior figure will face someone else later on down the line. So Ultimate Warrior, a lot of people hate on the peach skin of the figure, which, I mean, I'm not one of those folks that are going to sit there and harp on every little incidental when it comes to these figures. I absolutely love this. It's a beautiful figure, has an incredible paint job on the boots, perfect design, and it has an absolutely amazing body slam and fighting pose. You know, it's one of those figures where if you want to go underneath with the right arm, you can still kind of connect the left arm a little bit to give that solid, let me find a good figure here, where you can literally bring the hands together so they're kind of touching, so it gives you a realistic body slam pose. And to me, you know, that's the body slam pose. It's always the most important thing for me. You kind of throw on the purple championship belt. He did lose that belt to Sergeant Slaughter in the 91 Royal Rumble, which it was kind of what messed me up about that matchup. So Queen Sherry comes in, she kind of gets in the way, interferes with the Ultimate Warrior. He goes after her. Macho Man kind of tackles him out of the darkness. Warrior goes down. Macho Man goes back, picks up like a lamppost or something, and tries to hit him with it, but he trips on him and basically falls on top of him. And of course, the commentators, you know, they're going all in on it, making it sound like this man received the biggest beatdown in existence. And I'm like, just sitting there watching it, I'm like, the man barely touched him. What are you talking about? As an adult, yeah, you're going to notice those things. As a kid, I'm sure it's much more realistic, but so he goes back into the match. Macho Man comes back out, busts a scepter over his head. He's pinned. I hate those type of matches. You know, I get it with guys like Warrior and Hogan. It's practically impossible to defeat them either by submission or by pin. But cheating like that, it just takes the enjoyment out of wrestling. But anyways, the Ultimate Warrior figure itself is an absolutely perfect figure. And unlike Hasbro, with the exception of figures like the 3 different Jimmy Hart figures or 3 different Corporal Kirshner figures, for the most part, LJN pretty much stuck with one figure, one character for the entire line, and that was great. Because when you start getting into things like Hasbro, and they're constantly coming out with like Undertaker in Series 4 and 8, Bret Hart in 4 and 8, Mr. Perfect in 3 and 8, guys like Undertaker, or excuse me, Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man, Hulk Hogan, you know, those guys coming out in like Series 1, 2, 3, 5, whatever. Yeah, I get they're the highlights of your wrestlers of your roster, but Random Treasures, they came out with a new figure. To me, it made no sense because you already had an ideal figure in the LJN line. But that is the very first original, and again, Series 6, all but the Andre figure from Series 6 came from Random Treasures. One of the first customs I purchased came from Stinger GQ, and this is the Ultimate Warrior I was talking about in that Royal Rumble of 91, where he's decked out in American colors. I think it was around the time that Sergeant, I'm trying to think, 91, was Sergeant Slaughter a bad guy at that point? I believe he was. You know, they had that whole turncoat scenario where he basically became an Iranian or Iraqi sympathizer, and yeah, I think that was probably around the same time period, if I'm not mistaken. But absolutely gorgeous piece. Absolutely love the American colors all over wristbands, his little cords, and of course the little warrior displays on the trunks. Such an amazing figure. Now, I don't like the boots quite as much as the original because I just love all those little warrior mask designs on the shoes. And, you know, it's a relatively simple pair of boots, but a great figure nonetheless. The last custom I received, I forget which seller I bought this from. This one came in, I bought this one a few weeks after I made the Ultimate Warrior video featuring the Random Treasures Ultimate Warrior. And then, of course, I had shown all my other Warrior figures just to kind of compare them. Absolutely love this. This is a really phenomenal design overall, and it's unique. I mean, the way they kind of get those little cartoon type of characters in there. They got Macho Man and Warrior on there, and the same thing on the knee pads. The boots are so unique, and the design is just so flush overall. This is an absolutely gorgeous piece. I thought when I pulled these off the shelves that the Stinger GQ version was going to run away. But now I'm really leaning towards this custom. I really enjoy the figure. I said it when it came down to round 1. Most of these figures, I didn't want to harp on them for too long. Because once we get into round 2, that's when everything's really going to start kicking off and things are going to be really difficult with each matchup. But I think for the sake of this video, I am going to stick with the original LJN figure. Moving on to round 2. The next matchup is going to feature one of the worst LJNs ever made. Well, it actually is the number 1 worst figure, and I had this as my worst figure, you know, period, regardless of who the manufacturer was. And I've said it before, if you're using it simply for display, if this is a trinket you want to put on your fireplace mantle, it's a perfectly fine figure. It's a nice little statue. You know, nice little pose, you know, based on, you know, who Rick Rude was. Gorgeous pants. Absolutely love the design. But as a kid's toy, as an action figure, it's an unplayable figure, which makes it, you know, one of the worst figures ever made. So this one right here came from Random Treasures, and I'm noticing on quite a few of my figures, and keep in mind, these figures do not move. They pretty much stay on my shelves, and the only time I ever take them off is when I'm making these particular videos. So I bought this figure, I want to say maybe March of this year, possibly February. But you're noticing like a lot of paint loss on the head of this figure, and I've caught a few figures. You know, I figured maybe the shelves was too low, but no, I mean, you just put it just on there just like that. It fits beautifully. There's still a decent amount of space above his head, so it's not like he's scratching up against the top or anything. So I'm seeing a lot, and then, well, you'll see a couple of the other figures as well. A lot of paint loss, which really sucks, especially when you're shelling out $130 for that. So this one I just got in a couple days ago. Let's see, today's Tuesday, so I got this Monday. This actually is a Rick Rude original figure, and here's the thing. Original figure, good color, other than maybe a little bit of marking right there. No major deal. And look at that. Hardly any paint fade in his hair for a figure that's, 30 plus years old. This figure, I've had it for less than a year, and it's already has more paint loss than a 30-something-year-old figure. And to top it off, I paid less money for the original than I did for the custom. That sucks. When I was back in Iraq in December and January for those couple months with my last job, I was kind of talking to my coworkers, and I was like reviewing some of the Ultimate Warrior figures, and I'm like, do I want to go through Random Treasures, buy a custom for dirt cheap, or do I want to save my money and try and build up to try and purchase an original figure? And then eventually I just decided to just buy Random Treasures out, buy every single one of their figures, and I don't know, I won't say I regret that decision, but like I said, I'm not going to sell this because it's an original figure. I really can't get my money's back if I try and sell this. Who wants to buy a used Random Treasures custom? Now, I could probably sell it for like $50 or something, but I'm not doing that. I got to get close to what I paid for it. Rick Rude. And kind of a joke match because he's going against one of the greatest LJN figures, period. I mentioned that Series 1 had my all-time favorite figures of this line, but once it gets to Series 6, that's when the figures and their fighting positions start to go next level. So this Warlord, everything that you see about this figure is absolute perfection. The design of the face paint, the dual haired color, and of course, one of the single greatest fighting poses of the entire line. Powers of Pain, they didn't obviously come out with the Barbarian, not until Random Treasures came out with it earlier this year, or maybe late last year. I'm going to say early 2022 is when they came out with Barbarian, but it may have been November, December time frame, if I'm not mistaken. I actually like this figure, for display. Obviously nothing out, no other reason, but come on. Warlord, not even close. And I'm glad I was able to switch things up a little bit because before I grabbed the custom Ultimate Warriors off the shelf, I think this guy was going to take a square off against the... Who was he going to take? Maybe the next Ultimate Warrior? I don't know. But I'm glad that he got to face someone. That way he gets to move to round 2 and still has a legitimate chance of pushing forward to future rounds. So that is Warlord over Rick Rude. The next figure is going to be the Islander version of Haku. Display-wise, with the color of the pants, fantastic. Fighting pose-wise, with the arms way up there, this is a top 10 worst LJN figure. And we're on top 10. I think I'm going off memory, but if I recall correctly, I believe I had him at number 8 as the 8th worst LJN figure. And it all has to do with the stupid fighting pose. Arm positioning, it's in a perfect location. If you kind of like lower this hand, maybe drop this hand a little bit, kind of like more like a Hulk Hogan type, this would have been a perfect figure right there to match up with like a Warlord. But because the positioning of the hands are way out there or way up, it just makes it a very difficult figure to use. That's basically what he's doing. He's doing like these little power slam type of deal. Yeah, it's rubber. He could stretch his hands out and give you a good body slam and everything. But I've been mentioning that a lot of my Ram Treasure figures, you can sit there and say, oh, well, hey, look, it's rubber, blah blah blah. But then the pants or the colors, the figure starts cracking really bad, and I'm noticing that a lot with a lot of my figures, which really sucks. These are like crazy expensive figures, and you hate to see any kind of damage to them. They're not being played with, so you want to keep them as crisp and mint as possible. So first one we're looking at is, even though it's Ram Treasures, it's still part of the LJN color and design, so again, we're considering it the original LJN. And then we dig into the first custom, which is the King Haku figure. And this one is probably one of the worst as far as paint loss is concerned. Like I said, these just sit on the shelf. They don't get moved. Maybe a few times since I've started this channel to pull them off the shelf and kind of talk about them. But all around it, the paint is just, and on the knees, it's just terrible. I don't know what it is about this particular figure, but the paint job is not crisp or not perfect, unfortunately. I was thinking about possibly sending it back to them for repairs, but even if they were to do that, how much would they actually charge you to fix the cracks? I don't know. I never asked. I probably never will. For the sake of this particular matchup, I do like the colors of the King Haku version better than the Islander version. So right off the bat, the first custom knocks out the original. Now this one, I don't remember if this was a Wrestling Rider figure. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think this came from Stinger GQ. So this is the second Haku custom, and they try and stick with the similar type of what Ram Treasures came up with. But overall, I think this is light years better. Everything from the body type. When you look at this, you can always tell a Random Treasures figure because the rubber is so terrible. It's this right here might actually be an original figure, just custom painted. Now, he doesn't have any writing on his feet, so maybe it's custom. But if it is a custom, it's definitely a great one because, like I said, based on the color of the figure, it looks too crispy to be anything other. But anyways, I love it. Stinger GQ custom King Haku. We'll move on to round 2. All right. This matchup right here sucks. One of the greatest figures that Random Treasures came out with is the Smash figure from Demolition. As you know, you got the red face axe figure. Excuse me. They came out in Series 5 and then a re-release in Series 6. But they never came out with the second half of the tag team, which is Smash. Now, I've been dying to see a Crush Demolition figure created by Ram Treasures, or anyone out there who has the ability to make something like this. But I have yet to come across one, which really sucks. Now, this is an absolutely beautiful figure, and I think this was number 3 on my list of favorite LJNs from Ram Treasures, if I'm not mistaken. But like Jesse Ventura, like, the Axe figure, they have this stupid hand pose out. Even if you were to flip his hand so it's facing forward, at least that would be something. The only attribute that I like about this figure is that the fact that since he does like this little L-shape design, it beautifully holds your championship belt. You never have to worry about it falling off. Not really. Which technically, when it sits on the shelves and you move them, it does fall off. But, theoretically, with that pose, it's not supposed to. Not really. Absolutely love the figure. It's amazing. I'm surprised they didn't come out with like a red face smash to match the actual LJN original. But they did come out with the custom axe with, gray face, red eyes. So in this battle, or in this matchup, he's going to take on the, I guess called Volume 2 Ultimate Warrior. So, Ultimate Warrior is an absolutely phenomenal figure. Absolutely love this one. Here's the problem. When you're shelling out $130, $140, $150 for a figure from Ram Treasures, it definitely helps to get a figure that you don't own. Different wrestler, different fighting pose, things like that. And when you're creating an LJN figure of a beloved character, when there's already an absolutely phenomenal LJN original, to me, this was unnecessary. They could have taken the time. They could have made a different character. The fighting pose, it's good. I love the pose. They could have made a much better, or chose a different character, kept this fighting pose, and I absolutely would have loved it. Now, obviously, I liked it enough to, when I first saw it on the site, I immediately scooped it up. But at the same time, it didn't bring as much enjoyment. Like, I wasn't like, big-eyed and a big old smile on my face when I saw it. I'm like, oh, that looks cool. I thought it looked great. I love the pose, but again, they did not need to make an Ultimate Warrior figure. You already had a fantastic LJN original, and an LJN original is a much better figure altogether. But I digress. So when I did the Random Treasures exclusives, and that's what I'm talking about, the belt's supposed to stand, but it doesn't. I think I rated Smash higher than Ultimate Warrior, but I think that more had to do with the design of, the vest and the straps and everything. Absolutely gorgeous aesthetically, but, for me, again, fighting pose is one of the biggest attributes that I look for, more than color or anything else, more than the character themselves. So for this particular matchup, I am eliminating Smash in the first round, and the second Ultimate Warrior figure of this collection is going to move forward. Alright, so here is another absolute favorite, and it is Barbarian. So, Random Treasures, obviously, I speak very highly of the company, and, I obviously have my preferences when it comes to their figures here and there. So, this one right here was a perfect complement to the Warlord figure. And when you finally completed Powers of Pain, that is absolutely amazing. A figure that LJN / Grand Toys should have made, never did. Fans finally got their dream figure, 30 plus years later. And, obviously the Warlord figure came out before this Barbarian on the Etsy shop. I don't really like this particular color of rubber. Obviously, the darker rubber, to me, looks so much better. Or maybe I was saying that backwards on the other ones. I don't remember. Anyways, I still like the darkness of this figure. These are two phenomenal pieces. And imagine if these two had to square off. You basically got identical fighting poses for the most part. And, face paint, all that. This would be a difficult choice if you had to choose one or the other in the next round. Or the round after, depending on how they match up. Love the Barbarian figure. The first two times I did the My Favorite LJN tournament. Well, the first time I did it, I had him as my all-time favorite Random Treasures exclusive. The second time I got the Sid Vicious figure in, so he was bumped down to number 2. The third time I did it, he was bumped all the way down to, I believe, number 10, if I'm not mistaken. And still a great figure. But some of my feelings for the figures obviously changed. And I mentioned it, plenty. Something that you covet today may not be as well received tomorrow. And I still hold true to that belief. Luckily for Barbarian, he is going against one of Random Treasure's worst figures. Absolutely despise this figure. And, the fact that it's very simple, where it's an all black figure with the gloves, trunks, and boots, knee pads. You know what? I love King Kong Bundy. I love Greg Valentine. The simple one solid color does not really, hold any significance as far as being bad. No, it's this right here. This stupid British Bulldog one arm up in the air pose, which is absolutely horrendous. I could possibly live with this if they kind of did something more like had his right arm kind of like a Ultimate Warrior, whereas down just a shade, something even like this. That would have been really nice. But arm up, terrible pose, just a god awful figure altogether. And Bad News Brown in the face, I mean that's him, perfect replica in that matter. And I kind of mentioned it in one of my first videos when I was doing Ram Treasure exclusives the exclusive countdown. There's a guy named Chip that I was in AC First with in Afghanistan back in 2019, and he looked just like this. Now Chip's hair was obviously a little bit more gray and was a lot further down, but almost that's just a fantastic facial comparison between the two guys. So I thought that was really cool. But Barbarian, hands down, 1,000,000% defeats Bad News Brown. He goes to round 2. So the next matchup is going to feature a long-time beloved or hated, depending on your perspective, Brother Love figure. Another one of those original Series 6 figures that should have been made but never was. And I've said it plenty of times. I'll probably keep saying it as I make these videos, which include Brother Love. He looks like a red velvet cake. Red on the inside, you got the white frosting on the outside. But you take that away. It's got this really nice rose decal, your little pocket square with the handkerchief. I've seen a few, maybe not a few, maybe a couple Brother Love customs, which were not all that great. The face was, cherry red. And they have just the right amount of redness to his face here. I got to give Ram Treasures credit. They really did an absolute phenomenal job on this figure. And I think out of 25 figures or so that I have from Ram Treasures right now, if I recall, I think this was like my number 5 or number 6 favorite figure. So you think a very simple figure, non-wrestler, wouldn't be rated very high, but he is. He is a remarkable figure. In this competition, he is going up against Luke of the Bushwackers. And this is actually a very, it's a fine figure. The Bushwackers, they did the whole thing and they come down the aisle and whatnot, inside the ring, around the ring. Watching all of these past Rumbles, now, being a kid and watching the Bushwackers, them coming around licking people's face, funny, haha. Like, I remember loving the Bushwackers as a kid. Now, going back and watching some of their matches as an adult, to me, they become possibly the worst wrestlers in history. Like, they're worse than your typical jobber wrestler, what have you. And I think of guys like, maybe 1-2-3 Kid at one point fell on that list. Or Barry Horowitz, who was, a jobber, and then all of a sudden, he's in Royal Rumble in contention for the championship belt. These guys, it's so frustrating because, he steps in the ring, walks up to somebody, they grab him by the back of the head, very slowly walk him to the other side of the ring, throw him over the ropes. 4 seconds in, he's out. It's for both Luke and Butch. They are both horrible. Why would you waste a roster spot on guys that don't stay in there for more than a handful of seconds? It's humiliating for them, and as a fan watching that, it sickens me because I want to enjoy the competition, but when they're thrown out within a few moments of entering, terrible. So I'm no longer a fan of the Bushwackers. In fact, I'm actually starting to really hate them. And it doesn't help that the Bushwacker Hasbro figures are some of the worst as far as, being able to stand up on their own. This figure, though, remarkable piece. Absolutely love the design of their camel pants. Even the bulkiness of the cargo the cargo pockets here, fantastic. I actually like the Luke figure better than Butch. You know, I like the light brown here. And here's another thing I'm talking about. Again, these figures are not touching the sides or the tops of the shelves, so I have no idea why their hair is being scratched off like that. Now, when you look on this side, figures like Big John Studd or Andre the Giant or the Dream Team, those guys are excessively tall. Yes, those guys' heads do touch the top, so you kind of gotta like slant them either back or forward. But this fits beautifully on the shelf with nothing touching the top. So I don't know why so many of Ram Treasure's figures are losing excessive amount of paint. Beautiful figure. Not the best fighting pose, but I mean, if you wanted to use this for play, if you're a kid, or you wanted to buy this for your kids, you know, it's a playable figure, which is good. As much as I like the figure, I don't see him moving past Brother Love for this particular battle. So I am pushing Brother Love to round 2. And the original setup was Bushwacker against Bushwacker, Legion of Doom versus Legion of Doom, and then I had the Wild Samoan squaring off. But like I said, I forgot about the custom LJNs for Ultimate Warrior, so that basically had me go back and push and pull out another figure to battle Samoans. I'm already at 31 minutes, and I have this matchup and one more matchup to go. And if I don't hit 40 minutes, I might do a 9th battle. That way I can finish off the Wild Samoan tag team. So I actually said that this was Luke, but this is the one I've been calling Butch because this is the dark hair one. And I could have it backwards, but either way. So I got Luke with the light hair. Butch is the one I just was just defeated by Brother Love. So same thing from the first one. Again, with the Bushwhackers, they just simply mirror each other. Not too much more that you could talk about with this figure. The Legion of Doom altogether are probably the highlight of the Random Treasures collection. This is a beautiful, gorgeous figure with absolute amazing color scheme. Now, I do have a couple figures in here. You know, let me pull them off just to... Actually, dang, you know what? I am going to have to do that. So, let me backtrack. Because I'm still making the video, I'm going to backtrack a little bit, which means I will not use this figure right now. In fact, I will not use either Legion of Doom figure. So, I'm going to have Luke go up against Alpha of the Wild Samoans. And then the next video, I can do the 2 custom Legion of Doom figures versus the 2 custom Random Treasure Legion of Doom, and then move forward from there. So again, I'm not going to say anything different about this Luke figure. Alpha, when I first acquired the Wild Samoans, and I did my review, I had both Alpha and Sika dead last. When I redid it the third time, when I made the next video, I pushed them up a few slots. I think they went from like, out of 25 figures, I think I had them like 18, 19, something like that. So some of the things that I fancy about these figures, of course, starts with the added weight of the figure. Don't mind the overall pose, because Alpha and Sika are both mirrors of each other. It's a decent, playable figure. I just don't know anything about the Wild Samoans. You know, it wasn't a tag team I grew up watching. And so when I saw them, yeah, they looked decent, but I really wasn't interested at all in the figures. But in order to keep my Random Treasures collection going, I, went ahead and I purchased it. And I said months ago, when it comes to Random Treasures, regardless of what's coming out, I'm going to buy the figures immediately as they come out. And I just haven't been too excited about them recently, and I'll talk more about it in the next video because there's a particular figure that I want to go more in depth on. So, at 34, almost 35 minutes, I'm going to probably end this right here. No, I won't. I'll do one more video, or one more battle. So, like the Luke figure, but I'm going to choose Alpha over the Bushwacker. So, just kind of recap. Tell me that doesn't look like Danny Trejo to you. The last matchup is going to be Alpha, or excuse me, Sika, and of course managers of the Head Shrinker later on in life. Same exact thing to talk about, not a major difference, just a mirror. He will square off against the first Galoob 2-up Ric Flair figure. Now I mentioned Galoob did not do a lot of good things with their figures. They really only have 2 perfect figures. And then you dig into figures like Rick Steiner, Ric Flair, Scott Steiner, Brian Pillman, Sting, Arn Anderson. 6 figures which are considered to be some of the better Galoob figures, which are all terrible. This Galoob Ric Flair is it's not a good figure. Let me just put it that way. Not horrible. It's just not good. But again, among the Galoob figures, it's definitely one that deserved an LJN figure if they were going to go that route, and I'm really glad that Random Treasures did. I'm not going to dig in too much in this. I am going to say that Ric Flair is going to defeat Sika for this round, and with almost 37 minutes in, this would be a good point to stop. I will make another video or two tonight, and I really hate having a rush at the end right there, but again, there is a certain amount, a time limit I want to set myself to, so that the fans don't have to sit there for too long. But yeah, again, I'm going to cut back. I'm going to put the Legion of Doom in the next video, and that way they can have customs versus their custom counterparts. All right, thank you everyone for watching, and I will be back shortly. Goodbye for now.